Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Before we get into this one, if you could just hit that subscribe button down below, that would really help me out. But today's video is a little bit of a transfer news update. Now that Karl Darlow has been officially announced, things are going to ramp up as Leeds are playing Cardiff next weekend, and Leeds really need to get some more signings in the door, and some of them are going to be talked about in this video. Now, these are people we've been linked with. There is no concrete evidence yet, but I just thought it'd be interesting to see the sort of players who we are linked with. The first one is a centre forward. He's from Finland. He's called Joel Pohjanpalo. Get that right. It's quite difficult pronunciation, but he spent last season at Venezia in Serie B, and he played 37 games and scored 19 goals, which is a really, really decent return. I think he could flourish in a Leeds United side under Daniel Farke, because he is a little bit similar to the way that Teemu Pukki played. Andrea, who is obviously Italian, Andrea Russo, who's been on Joe's show loads of times, said that he would be actually a really good signing for Leeds, and at what is rumoured to be in the region of a €3.5 million release clause, it could be an absolute steal for Leeds to get him across the line. Somebody who could come in straight away and challenge Patrick Bamford for his starting spot, and I think he seems like he's a bit more clinical than Patrick Bamford, so it would be nice to see somebody like him come in the door. The second one is another winger, which obviously everybody will be saying, why do we need another winger? And this one is Francis Amuzu from Anderlecht. He's 23 years old. He's played 166 games at 23 years old, which is a lot of football. It's a bit like what Ethan Ampadu has done, where he's young, yes, but he's played a lot of football, and so his footballing age is slightly older. But the main thing for me is that if we are interested in this player, it sort of signifies that we are expecting more outgoings in the winger department, because you wouldn't add another winger to this squad if it stays as it is, because you've got Nonto, Somerville, James, what's his face? Joseph can play out there. Sinistera. We've got so many wingers, so you would be expecting that somebody like Amuzu wouldn't come in unless some of the other players are going to depart. So that maybe does give you a slight clue into what the club are thinking, in that maybe a lot of the players that we actually already have in the winger department are going to leave, and he's then going to be able to get somebody like Amuzu in to fill that gap, and he'd probably be a decent player. But then the one thing that worries me about transfers like this is we saw how much players from the Austrian league struggled to make the jump to the English league, but that was the Premier League. And maybe the same thing could happen with the Belgian league. There's not really been many players that have come from the Belgian league to the Premier League, especially, and really lit things up. So maybe the jump wouldn't be as high if it was a move to a championship side like Leeds United. But this one is sort of like a take it with a pinch of salt and see what happens in the future, because it does seem to me like Amuzu is only going to be somebody who is looked at properly if Leeds United are to get rid of some of their other wingers. The final one for today's video then is the most exciting one for me, is Taylor Harwood-Bellis. Now, Taylor Harwood-Bellis was on loan at Burnley last season, was a big factor in them getting promoted, a little bit like the role that Ben White played for us when we got promoted. He's just won the Euros with England's under-21s, starting in that game alongside Levi Colwill in the centre defensive spots, and he is actually a Man City player, so he was on loan from Man City to Burnley. But yeah, he's a big talent. He seems like he's going to go really far, and they want 15 million, which is a lot. If you were to ask me whether I would want Joel Perreault for 15 million or Taylor Harwood-Bellis for 15 million, I think I'd have to go for Joel Perreault, because we just need a striker that desperately. At the moment, we've got Pascal Struijk and Liam Cooper who can play left centre-back, and at right centre-back we've got Charlie Cresswell, who I think Charlie Cresswell really needs to be pushed into the main squad this year and to be a starting centre-back, I think. I don't know what bringing in Taylor Harwood-Bellis does for Charlie Cresswell. Charlie Cresswell obviously also in that Euro under-21s side and was on the bench for that. But I just feel like when you've already got a player like Charlie Cresswell with quite a high ceiling, you don't necessarily look to spend this much money on somebody like Taylor Harwood-Bellis if you've got a player that you can already bring through who's at not maybe as good a quality, but still a very, very promising youngster from the same sort of under-21s England group. So this one also is to be taken with a pinch of salt. I saw a lot of people saying that because this came from Reluctant Nico on Twitter. Let's have a look at his actual account. What people are saying is that he's very good for Burnley news, which obviously this player was at Burnley last season. He's a journalist. I don't really know what who he works for. It just says Patreon, so I don't know. People are saying that he's not a good source. Other people are saying that he may be a good source. So yeah, it's to be taken with a pinch of salt. But if we're to look at it as if it was real, as if it was a proper rumour, then I don't think it's the move to make in the Championship. I think if you were to be able to get this one as a loan to buy, and that you were able to put a £15 million tag on him if you got promoted, I think that's a better way to do things. I think that's probably what we should have tried to do with Ben White, and yeah, we didn't manage to because Brighton obviously wanted to keep the player, but Manchester City seemed to be willing to sell. So you can also see him going to Burnley, because I think Burnley fans are thinking that they'd get him on a permanent now. But I just think that if he was to come to Leeds, it would have to be a loan to buy, where when we went up, we could then pay the full whack for him, because otherwise you're paying a lot of money on a young defender when really you've got some decent young defenders, and the more pressing concerns are our striker and left back situation. So I think those are the things that we need to be focusing on. Like I say, Pohjanpalo has been linked, which to me is probably quite a shrewd buy, because he's not £15 million like Joel Perreault is the asking price. He's only €3.5 million, which is probably around £3 million. I think he's your priority. I think you go out and get somebody like him, regardless of whether you sign another striker, because his release clause is so low, and he scored 19 goals last season, so he knows where the net is, and he's a decent player. And I think you discount for now the winger Amuzu, because we need to focus on getting a striker in and a left back. What is worrying me slightly is that the links to left backs have sort of died down a little bit of late, and I'm hoping that Leeds are able to do what they've done actually with our other two signings, and have them sort of quite quiet until suddenly bang, they're in the door. So those are the ones that I'm hoping to see. I'm hoping to see Pohjanpalo come in as the striker, and then bring in a left back as well. And I think we'd be in a much better position to start the season if we're able to bring in a striker and a left back before the season starts. The other one we need to look at as well is a number 10, but I do think we've got players who can be adapted to play there, but it's just best to have a specialist in that role. That is one of the roles on the pitch where you really do need a specialist. So we'll be looking for one of them in the coming weeks, I'm sure. But for the moment, these are the ones that we've been linked with most recently. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little bit different. It's not as much based on the facts and who we're actually going to sign. It's more of like a little bit of a rumour mill video just to talk about the current links, because we do need to get players in the door. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you want to see more like this, and let me know what you think of the actual signings that we've been linked with. But yeah, thanks for watching this one. I'll see you next time on Leeds Lately.